Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to be with you all this afternoon as we gather to celebrate the wonderful life of Eric Stoddard Baxter. My name is Pastor Rick Dorian, and I come to you from Wilton, and I'm affiliated with Old South UCC in Farmington. And I was honored to be asked to be here today by Lonnie, a longtime friend. We've known each other, I think, since about 1995 and had worked together for many years in Farmington. It's so important to gather, to take time to remember, to celebrate. And even though it's been a year and we've been through many, many things throughout the pandemic, this is the time to remember and celebrate and honor a really good man. Merciful and loving God, we gather together today to celebrate Eric Baxter. Wherever we go, as we leave this time and as we remember our time together, let us spread love, joy, peace, goodness, and faithfulness in all that we do. Let us work to remember all the good things that Eric tried to teach us and share with us, and in all ways share love and kindness and graciousness wherever we travel. Guide us and watch over us as we celebrate and remember today. Keep us close, keep us filled with joy, but help us to watch over each other and to keep all the teachings and the good works of Eric in our hearts and minds as we go forward. Amen. And Lonnie has arranged for a variety of people to share remembrances and important things today. So this is your time to celebrate and remember Eric. And as you all come together and look around, it's pretty amazing to think of this one man, all the lives he touched, all the rooms he brightened as he came in, all the ways that he lifted your hearts and shared stories and tried to celebrate many wonderful things. And hopefully you will all remember and celebrate today. Eric had a really good life. So at this time, I would like to invite the first speakers up, which would be Patrick and Meghan.
Is this loud enough? Is this loud enough? Okay.
Go up on the stage.
Speaker.
Should I move it heart rate?
Is that,
Yeah, try that. That would be better.
does that help?
Put it next to the. Yeah, put it next to the.
You want me to put it on here?
Now?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm going first. We did rock, paper, scissors. Decided by Eric's grandson. I'm Patrick. I'm Eric's stepson. And then this is Meghan, who's Eric's stepdaughter. Very nerd. We're going to each talk separately. I wrote some things, but I generally always just write down notes and then sort of wing it. And I don't think you want me to change that for this. So Eric was my stepfather. He was my parent, and he was my friend. You know, he came into our lives when I was very young, and I don't really have memories of life before Eric. He, you know, stepped into our lives, I think, kind of instinctually knowing we didn't need like a father. Like we had a father, and I think he knew he wouldn't necessarily excel at that role. But he definitely knew he could be many, many things to us through the way he loved us, and he loved us unconditionally from probably the first day he met us. You know, you probably all know this. You don't realize the impact people have on you until you're much older. You kind of don't realize the way your parents internalize things in you until you're older. And you know, like when I think about Eric and I can hear his laugh in my head all the time. And the basis of our entire relationship was laughing and joking and having fun. And I could just hear his laugh all the time. And even in the weeks after he had passed, I was at the beach, which I will get to talking about the beach, Eric. And I was very sad, and I could hear him being like, "You sad at the beach?" You know, and doing that laugh. You know, so there's so much of my sense of humor that I can trace back to him, and even the way, you know, I might have to have Scott do it later, because he probably do the best. The way you go, Jesus! That sort of deep Maine. Well, I say that all the time. Driving, the grocery store, it's under your breath. And I know Meghan will touch on this too, but we were actually talking about this yesterday. Our mom and dad are, you know, not good cooks, and Eric instilled in us from a young age just a deep, deep love of cooking and food. And I can remember sitting at our old house, for those of you that went to that house, had a countertop and then sort of the stove top, and just sitting there for every meal, watching him cook. And also, for those that know, Eric hates peanut butter and he hates marshmallows. Something's going on. And I think true love is that he would make me fluffernutters whenever I wanted. And, you know, he would be physically repulsed doing that. So it's not like he just was going through it, but he was physically,
Does it need to get close?
closer,
Maybe.
maybe.
Oh, that is it.
Sorry. He loved to make connections with people. He loved to open you up and bring you into his world. I remember when I was very young, the Hewins Travel Office was on Commercial Street, and it was right by a store called Casco Variety, run by a woman named Maggie. And he got me my first summer job at Casco Variety. For 2 summers I worked there, and he would drop me off. Be like, have a good day. And then like 5 minutes later, he'd come back in and get his coffee, kind of like pretending. He was just like a guy. You know, but through that, like, it was really nice to feel like I was a part of his world outside our home. Because we're remembering Eric, I will not bring up the pay he negotiated for me prior to that job, which is probably illegal, but, you know, we value the memories. You know, our family has changed many times throughout Meghan and I's life, is a good way to put it. And Eric, you know, was so protectful of us and his relationship with us as his own life changed. But he immediately wanted us to meet Lonnie, and I think this was gonna make me cry. You know, when I think about everything Eric gave me, obviously I miss him, I want him here, but I'm so happy that I have Lonnie and that my family has Lonnie. You know, and I think about that our family has always changed and it will continue to change, and I'm just so happy that we have that. And my own family changed when I had kids, and Eric and Lonnie love being grandpas. So hard for my kids who are now 3 and 7, you know, we're going to grandpa and grandpa's, and it's hard for them. We're going to grandma and grandpa's, grandma and grandma's, but they finally figured it out. Like, I remember Eric coming to the hospital the first day. Sear, who's over there, he's the kid, the only kid here, was born. He was so hesitant to hold him, you know, almost like he was so scared to hold him, and then he held him, and it was kind of, that was it for him after that. And he's just, was just the most loving, wonderful grandfather. And we were so blessed to spend a week in Meredith with him last year, which in retrospect feels like such a gift. And I think he knew what a gift it was. And he didn't talk about being sick until our very last night there, because I don't think he wanted to even think about it. I think he just wanted to have a week with me and my kids and my family, you know. And I'm just so thankful that we had that. And you know, one of my last memories of him in many ways, I don't mean to laugh, is Eric covered head to toe in stickers in a house in San Crisanto, Mexico, with my youngest son running back and forth from the sticker pad to Grandpa Eric. And Eric just sitting there, kind of in his Eric way, getting stickers all over him. The last thing I think I'll talk about is the beach, the ocean. Eric, I think, would tell you that to live on the coast of Maine is to live in heaven. And when I think about the things that he gave me, and so much of it is just that the ocean is the greatest gift we have from where we live. And I can think, I mean, I have 1,000 nights sitting with him, watching the sunset over the ocean, you know, and he would go, the way life should be, which is true, right? But to this day, if I go to the beach, I want to go to the left, far away from everybody. Not because that's what I think I should do, it's just the muscle memory to me. If you think about it, like in retrospect, I was like, Eric does it. Also, Eric had me to pull the cooler, right? So like, it's not like it was a big deal for him to do that. But you know, in retrospect, like when I think about that compared to when we were in San Crisanto, which is there's nobody, you know, Eric's idea of the beach is that you should really just kind of be by yourself or with the people you care about, you know? The beach isn't for people, it's for you. And I'll just always thank him for everything he gave me. And I miss him and I love him.
Hi. 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 Hello. Nope.
Yeah,
Rock star.
I think you have to have it close enough.
Closer to my mouth. Yeah. Okay. Well, unlike my brother, I like to have fully prepared speech written ahead of time. Oldest child, youngest child. So, and a lot of this is going to overlap because Eric was Eric to us in a lot of the same ways. But Eric did come into our lives when we were really little children, and so little that I don't actually think either of us has very many memories without Eric in our life. I don't remember meeting him for the first time. I do remember that he had a cat and a VCR, and that made him cool in my book. It was the 80s, in case you couldn't tell. And he also had a window over the hallway of his apartment in the stairs, which made for a lot of fun for two small children. And Eric fully embraced letting his bachelor pad be transformed into our playground every time we arrived. When he and our mom married, we moved to the house on Wood Road, and he turned the backyard into a garden oasis, and then perfected his recipes for both popovers and carbonara. I now live on 7 acres, and I have a driveway that is lined with gardens. Every day I wish that I could ask his advice. I definitely did not inherit his green thumb. Should have been paying more attention when I was a teenager. But I look at the gardens at Long Hill Road and I can tell that I'm on the right track. And I believe he's proud, and I think he might even have had something to do with my roses blooming for the first time this year. And for a long time, I would order carbonara at every restaurant I went to, only to be disappointed. I knew better than to order the popovers. They were never going to stand up. I absolutely credit Eric with my love of good food and wine, and cooking for family and friends. As Patrick touched on, without Eric, we may never have eaten a single vegetable. Sorry, Mom. You know, I really miss being able to share recipes with him and hear about all the new things he's trying in the kitchen. Eventually, over time, when we were growing up, Christmas became the holiday that we shared with our mom and Eric. And we every year would go on a hunt for the Christmas tree. Eric and I took this very seriously, and it took longer than Packy or Mom was really interested in, but finding the perfect tree takes time. Imagine my dismay years later when he got a fake tree. Only to a couple of years ago call him up and ask for advice on how to get the best fake tree I could and make it seem real. When Eric and our mom divorced, he could have easily walked away from us. We weren't his children. But more than ever, Eric made a point to stay in our lives. At my college graduation, he and Lonnie stood in the back and then popped over real quick to make sure I knew they were there and said hi. And in my 20s and 30s, I would still introduce him to all my new friends as my stepfather. Eric would tear up at this. I don't know if you know, but he could be emotional. Our entire life, we've had a really non-traditional family. A lot of people wouldn't appreciate it. But I've always viewed it as we've had more people who love us and care about us, probably more than anyone actually has a right to. But we are so beyond lucky to have had someone like Eric choose us as his children, and I miss him every day.
It's Meredith next. You need a hand sweep?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Meredith Strang Burgess, and nice to see you all. I'm so honored that Lonnie asked me to say a few words today. I first met Eric's dad, Barney, back in the late 70s and the early 80s. We both were in the ad world together, and the ad club was a raging good time in those days, and we had a blast. We used to get together monthly somewhere, DeMillo's, and Barney was, you know, the star of the show, and he's like, you've got to meet, my son is getting, you know, in the advertising world and all of that, and I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. So finally, one day, I met Eric, and I expected Eric to be very colorful and command a room like Barney, and Eric was this sweet, not quite as outgoing as Barney, but very thoughtful guy, and I'm just like, wow, you know? It is sort of great how it all works, and such a great team, and to do that. And so Eric and I crisscrossed over the next 10 plus years on advertising, marketing, all kinds of different projects. But then it was really the Maine Historical Society that connected us for real. I was involved with Maine Historical in the 90s, during a time when I think Eric was on the board. I was on the board twice. He was on the board probably twice as well. But he had had this great idea for a fundraiser for Maine Historical, which was trips, which of course he knew everything about all of that. And I started hearing about these Maine Historical trips, and I was like, I'm on the board of directors. I don't know anything about these trips. They were like secret. It was a secret squirrel thing. You had to sort of be invited into it because they would sell out so fast. that they really weren't promoted at all. And it took us, so Steve, we were trying to remember, 1995 was Eric's first, when they sort of kicked off this fundraiser, affinity trips. And, you know, they've been going for about 25 years, I think. It's every year, there's wonderful group of anywhere from 25 to, I think the largest one we had was about 50, takes off and goes to, I'm sorry?
Don't forget the Connies.
Oh, and the Connies. Oh my gosh, the Connies. I know. And Connie Robinson and Connie Greaves really got this idea started. And a good group of us are here today, and really, it's really thanks to you guys. And also the wonderful genius of bringing Eric into that and made all the secret sauce for the trips to really come together and be so special. It wasn't until 2005 or 6, I'm thinking 2006, we were at a Maine historical event, and one of the auction prizes was a place on one of these amazing trips. And I said to Doug, I said, oh my God, I've heard about these trips. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Do you think we could really do this? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, we ended up bidding like crazy, and we bought 2 spots on the next trip. And that trip was from the White Cliffs of Dover in England to, I think, Rome. And we bounced along, we did Paris, and then we came along the end of Portugal and did Spain and the coast. I mean, it was the most amazing 2 weeks of our lives. It was certainly something I'd never experienced like that. And the group, some of you are here, was so special. But what the extra special gift was that I got to really get to know Eric. And I had known Lonnie, but not really. So, I mean, nothing like 2 weeks on a cruise ship to get to know anybody. And we had just a blast. We had just a blast, and, you know, lived for cocktail hour. And, you know, all of the antics and places. And Eric just took amazing care of us. Our group was always, we got the secret places, and it was all, he was so calm and cool and collected. But, you know, there was another side. And so sometimes during those cocktail hours and we had special times with Eric and Lonnie and some of us girls, we'd all end up, and the real Eric started coming out, and I was like learning this other side, and it was very, very funny. And yet at the same time, when it was back to work, it was very serious, and he was such a professional at taking care of our group, and everybody in our groups felt like, you know, they had received the special care. So this top that I'm wearing is actually from our last trip together, which was, we went to Egypt, top to bottom, and then over to Jordan. And one of my favorite, I'll call them Eric-isms, is when he would see something truly, truly, truly amazing, which you have to remember, these guys have seen everything in the world. You guys have had such amazing adventures. And happily, you know, a bunch of us got to go along for some of those. But here's Eric, who's traveled all over the world. And the coolest thing was that whenever he would see something really just amazingly special, he would turn around, and whoever was closest to him, you'd get, holy crap! And he would just have his eyes wide open, and he would just be like, this is amazing. And I was always struck with, like, oh my God, of all the places you've seen. Well, the last time I got to hear Eric go, holy crap, was in Petra. And Petra is beyond a holy crap. It is unbelievable. And it was hot. We were at the end of our 2 weeks together. We had done lots and seen amazing things. And you walk for, I don't know, is it like a mile? Yeah, or 3 miles? You walk down, you sort of start in a canyon, and then you meander, and then a little ways down, the rocks are, 3 or 4 stories above us, and there's, the river had carved out a smaller, in some places, really small little passageway, and we would you'd walk, and you just, you look up in amazement at what you were looking at, and then you kept going down, 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 and eventually there's this little area, and you can see light ahead. It's a sort of magical corner, and I had a hard time because it was just like, what am I looking at? And as your eyes begin to focus and you can really see, it's the first glimpse you get of the treasury. And for any of you folks who have been and had the privilege to go to Petra, it is awe-inspiring beyond belief. And it was the first time for certainly all of us, for you and for Lonnie and Eric to see it as well. And you just stopped. You just stopped. And sure enough, I was so excited. And Eric turned right around. Holy crap! And then we just kind of like rushed through this little very teeny crevasse that you can see on, if you see the Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a scene where they ride their horses on an area that we actually were walking on, and you come out and there's this treasury, which is, I don't know, 5 stories high and carved into this cliff. And we all sort of scattered around, but there was a little gift store, which apparently I am known on the trips to always find the gift store. I was reminded this the other day. Lou and Althea were like, yeah, we used to drive Eric nuts. Anyway, I had been looking for this particular shirt, and I want you to know that's where I found it, literally about 100 yards from the front of the treasury. So I wanted to wear that today. We learned that you could read Eric like a book. His face had a million faces of Eric, and you could just tell what was going on inside there. And we actually have photographs of a lot of those faces, and I personally have photographed many of them, and they were just famous. We knew when Eric wasn't happy, we knew when Eric was very happy, we knew when Eric was a little peeved, and all of those wonderful, wonderful faces. And then the eye cream. So there was some trip we were on a few years ago, I can't remember which one. Does anybody remember which one? And Eric had discovered this amazing eye cream. Was it Germany? We were in Germany, weren't we? Yeah, and we were on the bus a lot. And Eric had discovered, somebody put him onto this product, and it was like this little itty bitty tube, so like a little dab will do you, and you put it under your, it's the bags under your eyes, and I think Eric spent half the trip going around. Was it Lou he dragged you into, or out there? Yeah, he would be like any of the women on the trip. He'd be like, "Have I told you about the eye cream?" and if you said no,
In you go.
in you go. He would take you into the ladies' room. He'll take you, anywhere, and he'll go, "I have this amazing stuff. Look what it does. Look at my eyes. See, my bags, they're all gone." So, we would all like put a little dab on, and sure enough, in like 5 minutes, you feel it. It not hardens, but it tightens. It tightens your your little bags. And I think everybody on the trip to do that, and I think there were a number of purchases. Too bad Eric didn't have a Ponzi scheme going for purchases of this stuff. But anyway, it was the whole trip. It'd be like, has Eric, you done the eye cream yet? But that was just funny. Lou and Althea and I the other day got together for a little girls' lunch, and we just had fun talking about all of our Eric things. So one of those, Lou, I think you were talking about this, but when we went to Egypt, we had these, I'm not going to say this right, but it was like a gabardina. Anyway, what it is like a large caftan, but it's like a very comfy, the men and women both wore them. They're just floor length or ankle length caftan that you would wear, and they had fancier ones for more formal occasions, and then there was just your regular old one. Anyway, we of course all had to get them, and we wore them one night for a dinner. And Lou had hers on, and she had a fancy beaded headdress, and everybody was there. I guess, did you lean over and say something to Eric, or did you ask Eric about
what he had? No, he said, guess what? There's nothing under here.
So for those who couldn't hear it, so it's like a man dress, right? And of course, ladies, we understand how comfortable that really is, And so Eric basically said, ask me what I have underneath. Nothing. And I guess the other thing I want to share is Eric's compassion. Is that Eric is the most kind and thoughtful. We have all sorts of folks who've been on our trips of every different age bracket, practically. And Eric was always so thoughtful. One of our dear friends who's not here today is Gay Fawcett, and Gay is in San Francisco today. It's where she lives, and so wishes that she could be here and share this day with you all. But Gay had a few trips and falls in the last couple trips with us, and Eric would be the one to go to the hospital, or he'd go in an ambulance here with any of us. And we had our little things. He got Carolyn Murray home from Marseille in hours. I'm not sure. Dana, I think, worked around the clock to make that happen, but it just happened. Amazing things just happened. Eric had that talent. He is so missed. And dear Lonnie, we just want to I hope you feel all of us just hugging you all the time. I can't believe he's not here, and I keep expecting him to come around the corner any day. And Eric, every time we'd say goodbye to Eric, we would say, goodbye, love you.
Love you more.
More. Many of you have heard this read at different services and things, and for some reason, this was stuck in my mind the last couple of weeks, and so I have stolen it and rewritten it. I'm standing at the dock. A cruise ship moves in the morning breeze and starts for the open ocean. Eric has left for another exciting journey. I stand watching till at last the ship fades on the horizon, and someone at my side says, "He's gone." Gone? Where? Gone from my sight, that's all. He is just as large in our hearts as he was when I last saw him. Then, just at that moment, when someone at my side says, "He's gone," there are others who are watching him coming, and other voices that take up a glad shout. Here he comes.
My name is Fred Thompson, and I, too, is Eric Strang. Can you hear me? No? No? Okay. I'm not very good at yelling, but I'll try my best. I was just reminded that it was Eric that talked us into getting an artificial Christmas tree. So, and also, I realized that holy crap moment that when he was going to see that particular image of Petra, and I was able to turn around and take a picture of his expression with Lonnie. And you look at that picture, and I will send it to anybody who would like to see it. He looks like the most excited person in the whole trip. He always was like that. He had tremendous amount of responsibility, and yet he was more often the most excited person on any of our trips. That was a fascinating element of just a wonderful part of his personality. The morning or the night that Eric passed away, Lonnie was telling me the story that he asked Eric, how will I know if you pass safely to the other side? Now, you can imagine the moment. Morpheus is flying overhead. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of sorrow, there's a lot of happiness, there's joy. But Lonnie wanted to know if he could get a sign that Eric passed safely to the other side. And Eric said, look for the red card. So, as Lonnie was explaining to me that afternoon, the morning in his bath, a red cardinal came and sat on his sill. I didn't pay a lot of attention to that. I thought it was a moving moment. But 2 days later, there was a red cardinal that showed up on our bird feeder. And it had been there before. And but it had not taken part of the food. It was watching over his mate. Well, the mate ate, and then they left. 2 days later, the cardinal was back. And that was Eric. To me, that was Eric. And I had a very nice feeling about it. There was Eric in the morning. And that cardinal has been back off and on almost every other day ever since. And I just say, hello, Eric. How you doing? And it's a gratifying feeling because you do reflect on Eric and how wonderful he was. He and I met back in the 1990s when the city of Portland was going through some tremendous transitions. The retail section of Portland, the Congress Street corridor, from Monument Square to Longfellow Square, was eviscerated by the Maine Mall. I remember talking to Joe Gray, the city manager. He said he remembers looking up Congress Street from Monument Square and looking around and seeing every other building empty. That the merchants had left. They'd either gone to the Main Mall or the Old Port was just rising up and taking a lot of the breath out of downtown Portland. So I got wind of the fact that the Children's Museum wanted to move someplace from their campus at the Westbrook College. And I thought it would be a great idea if they could move to downtown. In the meantime, the Maine College of Art was looking for another place to live. But the pain that was going on the Congress Creek corridor was really rather significant. There were still a lot of businesses that had to stay there, and they were faced with the element that came in afterwards, which was, there were a lot of public drunkenness, there was a lot of panhandling, the trash was building up on the streets, and it was not a very pleasant place. And we gathered together, many of us, to try to figure out a way that we could salvage the downtown. And I think it was Thomas Mosier who actually had a furniture store on Cumberland Avenue, who said, look, every town, every city has this particular element. But what we need families, we need students, and we need children. And so, with that idea in mind, I approached the Children's Museum and I said, would you come downtown to the Chamber of Commerce building? And I had known Eric off and on, but I knew that he was a very brilliant person, loved the city of Portland, and I asked him to help me with the marketing campaign to bring the Children's Museum to downtown Portland and raise the funds to do that. And I realized that he understood what was happening to downtown Portland. There was the Baxter Building, there was the Baxter Library, there was the Maine Historical Society, there was the Maine College of Art. They were all there, they were all part of this corridor. And Eric understood. He had the Baxter family name, the hallmark of the Baxter, and he was living downtown, working downtown, and he wanted to put his effort into making that happen too. And the campaign was successful. We did bring the Children's Museum downtown. The Maine College of Art was able to move in. The Maine Historical Society was able to raise the funds for a brand new library. And we really changed the identity of downtown from a commercial retail district to an arts district. And it was a heck of a, and I've got to think that Eric was very much a part of that, helping me put that campaign together. Now, I've only been on 3 trips with Eric, and I gotta, every once in a while we're on these trips, I would think about what it's like to be a tour leader. Now, first of all, you're gonna remember who your clientele is. A-type personalities, the elderly, and in my case, the infirm, the people who wanted to be there and have put a lot of money into it, so that every single one of those components has a high demand and asks a lot. And so put yourself in the shoes of Eric, answering all the questions, 100 questions a day. Probably every other question was, where's the nearest bathroom? The second question was, what time does the bus leave? I left my camera on the bus. And it goes on and on, you can just imagine. I don't have any money. It goes, and there was one buffoon who said he'd run out of medicine. And I was panicking because if you read the TV, had listened to the TV ads, you were going to die the next day if you didn't take them. So I asked Eric, I said, well, what am I going to do? I can't get the medicine home, but I'm going to die because we moved around from town to town. So he said, why don't you go down to the local drugstore? And I was thinking, okay. So I get off the boat and we go to, we're in Austria. And I'm walking along, and then I started to think about it. This is a fool's errand. You could get into Fort Knox easier than you can get a prescription for this medicine back in the United States. It isn't going to happen. But he was very wise and sent me off, probably so I wouldn't nag him. And I went into the drugstore, And I asked for this particular medicine, and they said, just a minute. They went back, came back out. This particular medicine, which I don't take anymore, was $30 a pill. They put this bottle of medicine on the shelf and said that'll be 30 euros for 15 pills. Which, okay. How did Eric know that? How did he do that? But he had the intuition, he had the 360-degree osmosis. That he could read a room, he could understand the situation of most people and solve your problem. And if he didn't solve your problem, he'd always say, did you read your daily itinerary? It would slip under your door. That was always the answer. If everything else failed, but he was so good at what he did. He made you feel comfortable, and I never saw him lose his cool. Now, Lonnie, you could probably tell me that he may have come back to the cabin and lost his cool, but we never saw it. He was always accommodating. He always tried to help. And when you referred to Jay Fawcett taking a stumble, this was like late in the evening. Eric had to take her to a French hospital. I don't know if he spoke French, but obviously a little bit. And then in order to deal with the emergency ward in French, to talk to the doctors, get her patched up, bring her home, and then it didn't take, the stitches didn't work. So he had to go back at 1 o'clock in the morning and take her back. But this was what he would, and he never complained about doing that sort of thing, and that was the way he was. So he was an amazing, amazing person who could just be there for you. And he would do everything he could. And yet, as I said before, he was a little kid on these trips. He was as excited as the next person. So, in closing, I would like to say that I just picture Eric sitting on a cloud, floating around in the heavens, and St. Peter coming up to him and said, Eric, is that Minneapolis or is that below? And Eric said, did you read your daily itinerary? That's Memphis. So, folks, when the next time you see a red cardinal, say hello to Eric.
Is this okay? I'm Scott Baxter, Eric's brother, and like Patrick, I don't memorize what I'm going to say. I bullet and go extemporaneously. Go left at the beach? No, can't do that. Flop overs? No, can't do that. Make me carry the cooler? I can't do that. The eye cream? Can't do that. Fred? Eric knew his drugs? Yeah, I can't do that. Okay. Eric and I were 10 years apart, lived 2 hours away from each other, both traveled a lot. And because of that, we didn't get to see one another as much as we hoped. And the most important thing was Christmas and Thanksgiving. That was the time that you look forward to every year, and you know, instead of the vacation, it was always Christmas. And just the warmth and hospitality of Lonnie and Eric, and the relaxing, and the food, and the laughs. And I promise I'll get funny. The last Christmas, I annoyingly take pictures on Christmas, and Lonnie was opening a present, and Eric was just sitting there glowing at Lonnie, and I took a picture. And something struck me, this is well before Eric was sick, that this was going to be the last Christmas. I don't know why. But, you know, there are new times and new traditions, and the one thing about those Christmases and those traditions, we're on account of Lonnie. And every Christmas dinner, Lonnie would start the dinner by saying, "I am thankful for," and would reflect on a few things that were important to him that year. And then you'd go around the table. And it was really grounding. And it really kind of helped you frame up what the year had been all about and what was ahead. And it really, you know, it actually became a practice of mine moving forward. You think about, oh boy, 8 months from now we'll be together for Christmas. And I think of Lonnie saying, "I'm thankful for," while I'm in a meeting or whatever is going on, I missed a flight and be upset and say, "I'm thankful for." So, you know, I'm thankful. Thank you. That really made a difference. And those memories are great. There are other memories too, which I could share. And now that I have to cross off about 8 of them, I'll only spend another 45 minutes, so we'll be fine. Just a few quick childhood anecdotes. I surveyed some people in this room and beyond, and unfortunately I can't use any of the memories. Pastor, could you step out of the room, please? But I'll talk about Eric as the prankster. As a kid, Eric was a prankster. And he and Gus Cannellan were kind of like Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer, and into everything and anything. And they built a tree house at 81 Adelbert Street in the dead end in the woods. Right next to the house is this big old growth double pronged pine tree. And this tree house was elaborate. And not your average kid's tree house, and they were constantly putting enhancements into it, all the way up to defense mechanisms, and they dug a huge tiger pit in front of it and covered it up with branches and leaves and for their defense. And we had this neighbor, Delia Page, our next door neighbor, Peepin' D. That's what Eric called her. She was like the equivalent of a Gladys Kravitz on Bewitched. And only not so, I guess she wasn't as altruistic as Gladys. But one day she came over with a big basket of apples for the boys up in their treehouse and fell into the tiger trap, broke her ankle, and that was the end of Gus and Eric's tree. Now, admittedly, that was before my time, but you know, that tree, my first memory of Eric is that tree. Kind of a silly little memory, but he tamed a chipmunk that he called Henry, that lived in the base of that tree. He brought me, this is really my earliest memory of Eric, he brought me out to that tree and called Henry, and this little chipmunk came out of the tree and ate out of his hand. And I got to feed this chipmunk with my hand. I was in awe. It just blew me away. And that literally is my first memory of that same tree. And that tree's here today. They built a road through there, but the tree is still there. So anyway, the tree house. Then there was Gus Cannellan again. Gus had a sister, Barbie, and her friend was visiting, and she had a very small Volkswagen. So Eric and Gus picked up the Volkswagen that was that small and hid it in the backyard of Gus's house and camouflaged it. And she reported the car stolen. Luckily, Jim Cannellan, the father, was a lawyer and very well connected with the South Portland Police Department. So he was able to to smooth things over with the gendarmes before things got way out of control. But that was another one, and yeah, we could go on and on. Eric was also, you know, in his prankster, he was also anti-establishment back in the 70s, and when my father was at Shaw's, one summer he made Eric work at Shaw's, and Eric was a bundle boy, and Eric hated that job, and he hated his manager, Lee Patton. Oh God, he couldn't stand it. And so Eric devised a good way to just put this to rest. We used to bring lots of fireworks back from Hilton Head every year, and he tapped into the stockpile. We had those party poopers. You know what those are? The you pull on the string and the thing in the middle explodes. And these were small, but they made a big bang. So at opening, he went into the shopping carts at Mill Creek, South Portland, at Shaw's, and tied the party poopers to all of the shopping carts. So when you pull one shopping cart, they all kind of pull out, right? So it just goes bang, 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 bang. So, needless to say, Barney wasn't too happy with that. Eric's career ended at Shaw's. Thankfully, our father's career did not end at Shaw's.
But yeah.
And you know what? I'll give you one more that I wasn't planning to say. I remember as a kid, Eric babysitting, and this is a terrible story. I'm going to tell you. Eric was babysitting, and he had a party, and Blaine Davis. Anybody in the room? Blaine Davis? There we go.
There we go.
Very large football player was at the party. He got drunk. He fell down on the opening to the dryer. It was old-fashioned. It opened this way and snapped it off. And then, as he left the house, he fell down and snapped the whole front railing at 81 and Elba Street. That's what 18 steps. And so Eric was out there frantically nailing the railing back together again before my parents would get home. And the thing was rotten anyway, so it was barely, yeah. So anyway, that was another one. But, okay, one
more here.
this one, you know, is not the prankster. You know, we've heard a lot about food and entertaining, and you know, Eric was a fantastic chef and a gracious entertainer, and just a foodie. But he was a humble foodie, and you know, Eric abhorred, is pompicity a word? Eric abhorred pompicity, and he just liked the social. He didn't like pompous people, right? And so we, for his birthday one year, I took him to the Boston Harbor Hotel to a black tie event honoring Julia Child. And you know, we got a limousine, we bought tuxedos for the thing, and Beth and I were living in Boston at the time. So we went in, and the people there were just the most pompous people you have ever met in your life. You know, this is a Julia Child event, you know. And we just, you know, we got there and we just couldn't deal. So we enjoyed the wine in copious amounts and just kind of sat back and people watched. And when dinner came, we sat down at this table right up in the front, and Julia sat in the table right next to us, so that we were almost side by side, even though they were separate tables, and we were looking at each other, okay? And so, as the meal progressed, the moderator would get up and talk about the pairing of the food with the wine, okay? That's appropriate. But they went overkill on this stuff, and they went into detail, and everybody's putting on airs, and it was borderline horrendous. And Eric said, "Oh, Jesus." And Julia, who's slumped over, shoveling her soup, looked up at Eric, and she shook her head. You heard, oh God, we're in trouble now. And then they called on Julia to get up and give a few comments. So she stood up and she said, "Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so honored, and such good people and good food and good wine. But let's not over-intellectualize. Let's just eat." She turned at Eric and bowed to Eric and sat down. So remember that when you're in a meeting, when people are droning on, just say to end it, let's not over-intellectualize. Let's just eat. That's a favorite book. But last thing, you know, my most important and relevant and fondest recent memories would not have been possible if it hadn't been for you, Lonnie. Okay? You know, as we live apart and have different schedules, I said to Lonnie one day, you know, we're not getting any younger, and I need to spend more one-on-one time with Eric. And Lonnie wholeheartedly agreed. Didn't hear much about it again. And then all of a sudden Eric announced, going on the Danube trip, Lonnie can't go. He thinks it'd be important for you to go. Lonnie really strongly suggests that whatever you have on your calendar, cancel it, and let's go on the Danube. That's where I got to know Fred and Vivi together too. So thank you. I'm thankful for that. And Lonnie went one step further, and he said, you know, instead of coming down to Merida on the schedule that we have, I'd prefer it if the two of you went down together and spent a week alone together, one-on-one, and then I'll come down afterwards. Again, Lonnie's doing, and I gotta tell you, Lonnie, without that, I got nothing. I'm sure we do stuff, right? But those were three, especially those two Merida trips, most important things in my life with Eric. Just wonderful, wonderful times. So thanks for lending me out to me. I'm thankful to have you. Thank you.
Well, it was my idea to have this, so I'm gonna use it.
How we doing? Yeah? Oh, it's so amazing and wonderful to see everybody here. And I too have a few things I should check off that have been mentioned. I have to say, I was worried. Because I was worried I was gonna follow Meg, who couldn't be here today. And Meg taught me how to give these eulogies, these moments, these remembrances for the one that she gave to Scott and Eric's dads. And I was so worried, oh God, I can't follow Meg. Well, it turns out I'm following her kids, Scott, Fred, everybody.
Meredith.
What incredible memories, what incredible laughs, oh my goodness. You guys, I can't do this, I don't know. So, I'm Judy, I'm Eric's cuz. That's spelled C-U-Z. Really, his sister cousin. We were the closest in age to each other, which matters a great deal when you're young, and thankfully, not at all when you're older, right, Scott? Like siblings, cousins are in your life the longest of anyone. If you are lucky as I am, you know and are known by each other with a depth that is rare. In my life, if it were my life with Eric, if it were to pass before me,
which it has several times in these last years, what I would see most always starts with us at a Thanksgiving sneaking handfuls. Okay. I didn't know I was going to have to be upstaged by that. Okay, I'm going back. Sneaking handfuls of those pastel-colored mints that your parents used to put out in bowls, right? And getting sick. We ate so many of them together, and now I realize it was Eric that was getting me to do that. He was the prankster. I just didn't quite put the pieces together. It took a long time. At my brother Randy and Jane's wedding reception, I have another memory, and he was the prankster, of us sticking our glasses under this fountain of champagne. You know, you could just go by. I was 10, he was 12. I'm pretty sure this was Eric's idea. And it was mine, and possibly Eric's first time of getting a little tipsy and tired in the middle of a really good party. In the middle years, I see us at weddings. Jane and Barney would send Eric and Scott to be the family representatives at first Connie's wedding and then mine. There's a scene caught in a still photo. I still have it in my wedding book. It's of Eric grabbing, really sliding into home plate to get the garter that I had thrown. And I think, in fact, he struggled with John Baxter, his second cousin, or his first cousin once removed, who is here in the audience. Do you remember fighting for that garter at my wedding? Yes, And then it was his wedding to Meg and her family, singing at the rehearsal dinner, getting to the church on time, ding dong, the bells are gonna chime. And then of Meghan and Patrick and their life in Cape Elizabeth, lobster dinners with Eric telling down east stories in full what I call Bert speak. I see him at the Molten Union at Bowdoin for my parents' 50th anniversary party. There was a moment after all the speechifying when Scott on one side and Eric on the other, they scooped me up and I was able to kick my heels up. It was caught again in a picture. It's one of my favorites. Though I was not here for Eric and Lonnie's commitment ceremony, I was for the wedding. I have never seen Eric so happy, so over the moon, so in love. To be creating and continuing to create, not just that party, but this life together that they had, and to have him and Lonnie be doing it together and sharing that moment with so many of us, either in spirit because we couldn't be there or because we were there. I think of trips down the Elbe River. I got to go because Lonnie couldn't go on that one. That was with the Portland String Quartet. It was lovely. I also know, Lonnie, the kind of job you had. Eric's success on all of those trips that so many of you went on, and that Scott was able to fill in, it was a job. Lonnie, you were the team. You and Eric were the team. And you still are. And, of course, Meredith figures prominently. Meredith, of swimming in the sonetas, of our day-long trek with Dan the Man, to the off-the-beaten-track Mayan ruins that we had all to ourselves. And of our and the sisal plantations. I have pictures in my mind of Lonnie, Eric, and I on the top of the pyramid at Sayil. And I have that picture of Thanksgivings and Christmases spent in many places, but most memorably at Long Hill Road. with all the wonderful family dramas and love that make up our stories and our memories. I'm guessing that you, as a consequence of being here today and listening to these memories and reminiscences, know Eric even better, perhaps, than you did before. But I know you're all thinking of memories. I know the stories mean so much to you. So take a moment. Think about memories that are coming up for you or that you've heard about here. Visualize in your mind's eye a picture that captures a time with Eric. Which one is vivid for you right now? What does that memory capture about who Eric was in that moment and to you? I'm just going to let you pause and take that in. Hold on to that. A thoughtful Buddhist teacher, Sogyal Rinpoche, said simply, learning to live is learning to let go. We spend our lives letting go. I feel like I've spent the last 20 years really practicing this lesson. Sometimes letting go is very difficult, traumatic even. Other times it's a natural ending, a true release, as a balloon released from a child's grasp sailing to the sky. There in those moments, there is both joy and anxiety. They coexist. Letting go requires being willing to release, as well as a willingness to embrace the unknown, stepping into the next moment. There is a risk inherent in both actions of release and embrace. The consequences of not letting go are significant. You get stuck. To let go requires recognizing that the moment has passed, acknowledging the ever-changing landscape of our lives, focusing us to feel and be with uncertainty. Take the place we find ourselves today. Hell's bells, take the place we found ourselves this last year, where we've had to let go of damn near every routine in our daily lives, but most especially how we grieve. Joseph Campbell said, we must be willing to let go of the life we had planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. Today, we, each in our own way, are on the path of letting go of grief's grasp, but it is a path. On our heart, brought by Eric's death last July 15th. It's been a long year, and coming back now to celebrate his life may renew the tightness in our heart, as well as the joy. Though it feels like we're letting go of Eric, we're not. We are letting go of the attachment, the need, the wish, the desire to have our relationship with Eric be other than it is right now. I find the hardest part of letting go is accepting there is one less person in the world who knows me and who, even with such knowledge, still loves me. In other words, our task is letting go of Eric in our lives as he was and embrace the way he's going to be in our lives now. You do get to carry him with you. Honest, Lonnie. You do. We are letting go of the woulda, shoulda, couldas, letting go of the plans that will never be, the trip that won't happen, the worry that's no longer, the dinner party, the garden vision, the call to ask how to make popovers yet again. I think I better have it down now. Well, you get my point. Take away the stuff of tears, and there's nothing to make laughter of. What we have to remember is this: without those times that we've just heard about, Without those actual experiences, without having gone on the Danube and gone to Merida and created those opportunities for us, if Eric hadn't been the husband, brother, father, grandfather, uncle, cousin, did I say cousin already? Friend, colleague, and he was friend and all of those other things to us, we wouldn't be so sad. We wouldn't be missing him so much if he hadn't been who he was. This is the bittersweet of loss. I know a lot about this. To be sad about losing someone is to recognize the gift of having had them in your life, of having had them bring meaning to your life. And not just any meaning, it's a special meaning that comes from them and from who you were together. You get that. It's yours. You get to keep it. Maybe together we can help each other. I know you've helped me to find a path of ease and flow in letting go, where we can find joy, tenderness, and gratitude in the embrace. Let us go back to that memory, that picture, that quality of Eric that I asked you to bring to your heart. The one I thought of, you think of yours. The one I thought of was of Eric on my first trip to Merida. What I remember was watching his incredible curiosity at work. He was getting to know this place deeply. And he was getting to know the culture deeply and where to go, what to do, but how to do it. He was immersed in it. And then it was how he worked to make that excitement accessible to all of the rest of us who happen to have the sweetness of going to Merida. And how to translate that and give it to us. It wasn't just his. This is one way he will be with me always. There are many other ways. It's the curious, generous Eric. I'm taking Eric into this moment, being curious and generous, I hope, with you, and into a future trip. I'm wanting to go to Easter Island, so I'm going, what would Eric do? Right? So connect your memory from before to what you're going to be, how you're going to be Eric, how you're carrying Eric into the future. What quality, because he's not there to do it for you people. So you got to do it. So bring Eric with you. So take that moment, close your eyes, connect that memory from before with a future moment, a trip being planned, a dinner to prepare, a party to have, a garden to plant, a family discussion. And what did you learn from Eric? What would Eric do? WWED. And finally, it's been said already, pretty sure there's some cardinals that have been chirping. I wore my cardinal earrings. In Colorado, Eric comes as a chickadee. We don't have cardinals in Colorado. And remember how he teased me?
Yes.
He wouldn't show up for me, right, Patrick? Remember that night? I came out and hung with Lonnie for a couple of weeks last summer, just so we could be together. And Eric kept not showing up for me. He'd dash in, and I missed him. The cardinal would dash in, and I wouldn't miss him. And we'd be sitting having lobster dinner, and
all of us would see it.
And everybody else would see him, but not me. And then finally, he did. But he was playing with me. He was yanking my chain. Yeah, So, finally, what would Eric say to each of us at the end of our time together? We can all say it together. We'll do it a couple of times. I love you more. 1, 2, 3. I love you more. One more time. I love you more. Remember his love. With it, we carry him with us always. And perhaps this is his parting instruction to us all. Eric's wisdom for us to love each other more. And I'm so glad to be here.
Well, there's so much to reflect on, so much to smile about, so many incredible stories. And I think I met Eric. You had brought him up to Farmington. There was some kind of a dinner we were doing, and you introduced him and said, I want you to meet this special person in my life. As a faith leader and somebody who's attended seminary, there are two great things that we're charged to do to try to help people to grow in their faith. And one is to love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. The other is to love our neighbor as ourselves. I would say today I've heard so many incredible stories about Eric as the most gracious host, the most caring relative and family member, somebody who always looked out for his friends, always had a kind word for others, but also somebody who was very committed to community service and doing good for others, and most importantly, leaving the world a much better, brighter place. My grandmother always had this expression, there are some people who brighten the room when they come in, and there are some that brighten it when they go out. She had a good sense of humor as well. And certainly Eric was somebody who brightened many, many rooms. And as Judy just shared, he's not really gone. He's just moved on to be in a fuller way with the universe. All the things he shared, your incredible experiences, just close your eyes and just think, what would Eric say? What would Eric do? He's become one of the saints that will be sitting on your shoulder. Just close your eyes and he'll tell you what's next. Yes?
There is a cardinal whistling over there. If we were quiet, we could hear it.
If I'm watching, it might not happen.
It did happen.
Yes.
And of course, the trickster having some fun, but making sure his presence is well known and well felt today. As we close this important time of celebration and remembering, I would lift up this benediction. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
I thank everyone for coming, and now I believe we're going to have refreshments, so do enjoy. Thank you, I love you, and I love you all more.
Love you more.